Hi all, I hope all is well. I hope you're having a good weekend. I wanted to take a few minutes and provide you with a short overview of the assignments for this week. You'll find it more specifically set out on the class webpage. First, as it relates to the textbook, no reading for this week. Instead, we've got a couple of popular, fun, I think enjoyable and insightful readings that will track and reinforce and perhaps deepen your understanding of the material that we've been exploring and point to where we're going. The next chapter we read from the textbook will be, or one of the next chapters will be on awareness. So we've got Dr. Amishi Jha's national bestseller, Peak Mind, and we have an excerpt from that book, chapter 1 on attention. You'll also find on the website a 4-minute segment of a podcast where she's interviewed about the book, and she talks specifically about mindfulness practice. And you'll find this to be very much reinforcing, hopefully, what you already know. You'll be nodding like you know this. And also, I would imagine she'll share some ideas that maybe can further illuminate your understanding and interest in this terrain. Then we have a chapter from Dan Harris's terrific book, 10% Happier. And this is from chapter 6, The Power of Negative Thinking. I think you'll find this to be fun, funny, and insightful. And on the webpage, you'll see a link to I think it's a 13 or 14 minute video segment of him on Nightline. He was at one time the anchor of Nightline, where it's a bit of a plug for, but more importantly, a discussion of mindfulness, and he talks about his book, and he talks a little bit about his journey in the book. So I think you'll find that to be interesting. And then we have a reading by Michael Singer from a book called The Untethered Soul. Some of you have indicated that you read it and you're familiar with it, and I think you'll find this first chapter on the voice inside the head to be very insightful, and also track and to further illuminate why it is that when we sit and we practice mindfulness, the practices in particular that we've just learned, and in particular the focused attention practice, it really is an opportunity in the realm of mindfulness practice, to see things more clearly alongside the prospect that it can be a settling technique unto its own right. And we talked a lot about that in class on Friday, and we'll continue that exploration because it's rather subtle, I think. And the more clearly we get it, the easier it is to settle into a mindfulness practice. And the more we practice, pacing yourself in a way that's comfortable for you, the more we practice, the more we get it. And so the two reinforce each other. There's also a science reading on a study that Amishi and I did with her lab that was done at the University of Miami with undergraduates. And in many ways, as you read about that and learn a little bit about the science and some of the things that we look at in these studies, because it was undergraduates over the course of the semester, you'll be able to readily apply it in some ways to yourself. There's also the paper topic selection form. Please fill this out and bring this to class. You need not text this to me. Just bring this to class. You will hand it in. Now, as it relates to the readings, you will find on the class webpage me providing you with some instructions on a 1-page writing assignment that you'll want to do in proximity to the finishing of each of these chapters. So whether you read them all at once, or whether you read one a day, or however you choose to parse it out, this week there's no do it earlier than later, unlike other chapters where it really sets up the practice you'll be doing. Because there's no new practice this week, you'll just be continuing to practice the focused attention and body scan. We'll talk more about those in class on Friday. You can do these readings, or my recommendation would be do them whenever you want, but you'll notice that the assignment asks you to formulate or to think about something as it relates to the reading and to write that down. So I would encourage you to know that each time you read, so that you can then make note of what those few sentences would be. and then you'll cobble together those sentences for each of the 4 readings, and then you'll be formulating a particular question, and then that's what you'll be sending me on Wednesday by the end of the day. And then as it relates to the practice journal, 2 things. 1, and this is a variation, you're always welcome to do more. So you're always welcome to write more than I might suggest. But for this week, all that's asked of you is to continue to track focused attention, body scan, to do at least 5 practices this week, 7 if you want. And starting Monday, all that is to be written down in the observations is a number between 1 and 10. That's it. And after the practice is over, so the way I would suggest it is that you first fill out the first part. This is probably what many of you are doing. What time is it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What kind of practice is it? And then after the practice is over, whether it's 6 minutes, 12 minutes, 18 minutes, or some duration of time within that frame because you may have stopped it along the way or you may have continued on longer, you would then put 1 number down, and that number merely represents your intuitive sense of how aware you were, how much you were noticing your experience, whatever your experience was during that practice, with 1 being, sort of like lost in thought, unaware, not really, just, I don't know what happened, I wasn't really there. And 10 being very aware. I was tracking everything that was going on. It's unlikely you'll have a 1 and it's unlikely you'll have a 10. If you're, it'll be somewhere in between. And it's just an average across that length of time. So it's just 1 number. And then if you happen to have an insight that you want to write down to keep track of for yourself or to talk about in class, to write that down. But in terms of the observations, for this week, unless you want to write more for yourself, it's purely a number. And then one of those days, the focused attention practice that you will do will be sitting outside with your, writing instruments, your crayons, in front of a tree, maybe the same tree, maybe a different tree, to set the timer for 12 minutes, 18 if you prefer, 6 if you feel that works better for you, but 12 minutes is what I would suggest, and to draw the tree with as much interest in detail and nuance and light and shade, and and when you think after 3 or 4 minutes that you're sort of done, sit there and is there more? And there is always going to be more, and to then pick it up and continue on, or whatever that process might be for you, with 1 additional piece. You can do this at any time during the practice, but I would recommend that when you finish with the tree, then take a few minutes and draw yourself. So it'll be the tree and then you with the tree. Alrighty, I hope that it gives you a pretty good sense of what the week's assignment is. I think you'll find the readings to be enjoyable, informative. I think you'll find the mindfulness practice is really for you to choose and draw upon that which you'd like to. I think you'll find the getting out and doing the focused attention tree practice to be, as many of you have already articulated and spoken to, enjoyable, something to look forward to. And I look forward to seeing you on Friday. If you have any questions, please let me know. And remember that in addition to the readings, in addition to the 1-page assignment, you've also got 2 video clips to watch, which whether you watch them in close proximity to the reading by the same author, or whether you watch them at a totally different time, I think works just fine. So take this week in a more leisurely, comfortable, relaxed way, and have a good week.